Yeah, definitely. Because I read in an interview with the lady's name that I've forgotten now, the lady that originated in Come From Away, and she said there was even a discussion with the Broadway production about introducing a queer female character to the show. So it looks like there's so many different possibilities coming from it that it does feel like it is real progression, and I think Company is a real fundamental part of that step forward.
That's great. Well, if that's what it does, then it's done a brilliant job.
Definitely. Rosalie, one of the first times that I ever got the pleasure of seeing you on stage was in one of my favourite shows ever, which is Lord of the Rings. And
oh my goodness, was it?
But I think I'm nervous to say I think it was the first time I actually ever saw you on stage, and I'm obsessed with that show. I was actually listening to it before we did this because I was like, I just want to remember how fantastic those orchestrations were and how brilliant that show was. Because I do think it was the first time on stage that we'd seen the sort of epic movie adaptation brought to life on stage. Playing Arwen, what was it like, I guess, playing a character we loved, what we all knew, but in a completely different way, and it also being on stage?
I had the absolute time of my life on that job. Also because I think I'd only ever been in the West End before for about 5 seconds with the Royal Shakespeare Company. So it was like doing a big scale show with Matthew Warchus and Lord of the Rings, which, you know, we watch every winter anyway. We're obsessed with it. We love it. It was fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating to do. And luckily, I was young enough to not be obsessed with the fact that I wasn't Liv Tyler. So I was just managed to don a wig and some enormous shoes. But I think for me, you've hit the nail on the head there. The score for me was just, there's probably 2 things that I only ever listened to that I was a part of. One of which is that, but I don't listen to myself. I listen to everybody else. And London Road. They're the only two. London Road. There's two L's. But yeah, it was absolutely fascinating being part of that. I'm trying to cast my mind back, but it felt we were in tech for about a year, and the set was so huge. I just remember just every time coming into this thinking, this is insane.
Yeah.
The set moving and Gollum crawling over it. It was so ambitious, and I think it may not have been. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about this. You have to put the cat somewhere else. This is ridiculous. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. Don't worry.
It's absolute comedy.
Can you still speak a little bit of Elvish? Has it stuck with you?
No. What do I
The song. I feel like I know. I think the first line is under la. Then it goes on from there, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness.
The Song of Hope.
If I listened to it, the Song of Hope, I could do it. I reckon I could do it. Yeah, and we used to learn Elvish with our hands. It was. I'm so glad you like that.
Yeah.
But I was just going on to say, I don't think critically it was the biggest hit in the world, but much like Hadley said with Pirate Queen, I would have done it again and again and again. You just don't. I would never have been able to walk away from that sort of opportunity. I mean, when did you do Lord of the Rings on stage?
It was epic. It really was epic. I wondered if you had a little bit of Lady Galadriel envy because she got the big cloth entrance. Did you think I'd quite like to do that?
There's a lot to talk about, but also Laura Michelle is amazing and was way more experienced than me at musicals at this point. I just remember watching her in that gold costume. I think when she was having gold leaf put on her face, when I used to sit in her dressing room and watch her spin down the silks, I thought, yeah, she might have got a better entrance there. Fair play.
I love it.
She deserved it.
And it was sort of wow, but I think it was wow because of the entire production, and obviously the Gollum entrance was phenomenal as well. It was amazing, and I'm so glad. I felt kind of privileged actually to say that I was one of the very lucky people that got to see it. Hadley, Les Mis is a huge part of your career. I imagine that when you're doing concerts, lots of people want to hear you sing songs from it. Has Les Mis always been, I guess, a favourite show of yours, and having been in it, do you sort of still love it, or are you like, oh gosh, it's that show again?
Yeah, I didn't know it. I didn't know it before I first did it, so it wasn't one that was sort of known, I suppose. I came out of college and went into the London production and hadn't really an idea of what it quite was, I don't think, and so that was a bit of an eye-opener. But yeah, I suppose that you're right. It has been a part of my life, my career, certainly my working life. I regard it as a brilliantly written piece of work. As a consequence, that's why I've gone back to it a couple of times. And there are parts there that I think are sustainable over a year, you know, in order to play. So I think I've always enjoyed the thought of that, and I think I've done the parts now that I'd want to do. You know, people sometimes say to me, "Would you come back and do Valjean or something like that?" Cameron thinks I'm too small and too thin to do that. Yeah, seriously.
It's nice of him.
It's very sweet of him, which is nice, I guess.
Yeah.
But also Valjean's just too much like hard work. So, you know,
that's the truth of it. It's not about the thinness or the nothing.
There's a toast in some theatrical circles which goes like this: no heavy lifting. And Valjean to me is a great deal of heavy lifting, and I have a great deal of admiration for those people who can knock that out night after night. Yeah, I think having done the show twice in London, having done the 25th anniversary and the movie, you know, I've ticked those particular boxes, and I'm very glad that the show still has a great following, and I'm very proud of my association, and I have a great deal to thank that show for, a great deal to thank Cameron Mackintosh for, in particular, for hauling me out of college and into that show straight away. But yeah, I think certainly for the foreseeable future, who knows what the world might throw at us from now on, but certainly for the foreseeable future, I don't see myself going back there. But I'm sure, you know, like you said, in concerts and things like that, I'll be doing it probably forever. I know that I've got some concerts hopefully coming up in Japan in September, and I would be staggered if Some Les Mis wasn't on the set list somewhere.
I don't know if you guys caught that comment, but we should probably just say hello to Vanessa Williams, who I think just joined the chat and sent you guys a wave. So
Vanessa! They've had snow, you know. She's had snow in upstate New York where she is. We
had paddling pools and it was snowing there. It was unbelievable.
Crazy, isn't it? The difference always slightly strange. But then I think my friends that live in Scotland have been having like terrible weather, and then we've had this sort of the sun. I felt a bit guilty being outside, but yeah.
No, that's pretty much all we've got right now, is the ability to get outside. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
In a socially distanced context.
Of course. Hadley, I wanted to ask you about moving from stage to screen and being in television shows and being in front of the camera. You managed to, I guess, work between the two different mediums. Do you enjoy the fact that, I guess, it challenges you as an actor to be able to work between the two? I guess, is that something that interests you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Rosie probably is more versed in that than I am, to be honest. But I know it's something that we've both strived, I think, over our working lives to do those, to sort of cross discipline, I suppose. It's something that I think we feel very strongly about, that as performers, that as actors, there is not necessarily that that thing of being one particular type of performer or one particular type of actor. We're always very, very conscious of doing a great many things. I'm very proud of the work that we've done sort of across the board. I feel that I'm drawn a lot to working on film. Perhaps it's the novelty of it, because I did, you know, a great deal of theatre work at the beginning of my working life. But yeah, I mean, you know, you work with people, I suppose, at the top of their game, in any world, I suppose, but certainly in that world, and you have a newfound respect for them. I mean, working with Ken Branagh on All Is True was something that I think I'll hold very, very dear forever, because I got an insight into how he thinks and how he works and how he looks at life through a lens, how he captures things, a few sort of shorthand tricks of the trade, some slightly more long form things that he was very, very keen on. And I suppose there was a moment in that show where I looked at him, a moment in that film where I looked at him dressed up as William Shakespeare, and next to him was Judi Dench as his wife, and I thought, there are few people who are going to get the opportunity that I've got right now. So I felt incredibly fortunate to be in that position, and it made me very, very aware of doing the best work that I could do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose I would hope that we are getting to a point, I know it's something that's frequently talked about, I would hope that we're getting to a point, certainly in the UK, where we are breaking a certain amount of barriers and walls down in terms of considering performers and actors to be one particular type or the other.
Yes.
I don't know how you feel about that, Rose.
Oh, I feel the same. I think I did. I was lucky enough to do a lot of screen work after I finished company. I think it was all screen work up until we started City of Angels, and it is an incredibly different discipline, and one that I always feel like I have slight imposter syndrome with it. But by the end of sort of the 7th or 8th job, I was like, oh no, it's okay. You know, I'm allowed in. I'm allowed to be here. But essentially, I feel like our skills that we have theatrically only enhance what we do on screen. I think there's a deep understanding of how to do a performance, repeat it, change it, be versatile, you know, think on the spot. And I just love it. I absolutely love it. And now I'm not afraid of it. I mean, it's just something that, you know, well, I think we, you know, we'll be doing more of it in this current situation as well.